Got a few worries about Mason Mount, and United apparently are one of the leading contenders, according to Sky, to sign Mount this summer. And there's a few worries with him. And as we've said, Chelsea are likely to be having some sort of a fire sale, I believe, not just this summer, but probably every single summer, regular, like the DFS sale, because they've just signed so many players, and they have such a stock of academy players. They're gonna have to be slinging players out all over the place, and there will be bargains to be had. On the face of things, Mason Mount is not that bargain. Mason Mount, 60 million, there is no bargain to be had there. So he's had a very interesting career. There's been quite a lot of highs in there, despite him only being 24 years of age. And he's pretty much won the lot. No league title to his name, but he's won the Champions League, World Club Cup, Super Cup. He's had a handful of brilliant seasons for Chelsea, proved himself in the Championship initially. Last season, he had a 13 goals, 16 assists in all comps as Chelsea did reach the FA Cup and League Cup finals. But since that, there's been an enormous drop-off. And it's not just him, and you can't blame all of the Chelsea woes on him. Todd Boehly's the man for that. The fact that Lampard was barely even playing him as well, and there was rumours like, it's Lampard's secret child, just showing you that how much that he'd fallen off. And yes, Chelsea are a complete shit show, but 3 goals and 6 assists is such a drop-off from his previous season. Now, I think he is a good player, and it will worry the Chelsea fans when Lampard was asked if he was staying. His answer to that was, I don't know the answer to that, which is a rare bit of honesty from a manager, albeit a temporary manager, on the future of a player. Now, he's very dynamic. He's got an excellent dribble. He's got a real good range of passing. He breaks the lines really well. He scores goals. But Chelsea are reported to want a hell of a lot of money for him. And I don't think they're in a position to offer that because they're going to have to offload, because they've spent ungodly numbers in the last couple of seasons. Because they've got a squad of about 800, they are going to have to offload him. And we've seen this with United so many times. When you've got a need to sell, it reduces the price that you're able to bring in. The flip side of that is the opposite. Daniel Levy at the moment is sitting there going, I ain't letting you have Harry Kane. I'll let him go for free rather than take any money for him now whatsoever. And he's like, give me 100 million. He's got a year left on his contract. That means you're going to pay 10 million a month for Harry Kane. Like, just to have him, when you could have him for free if you just waited till the end of the season. Bit of a risk. Obviously, you're going to have an older player, but is he worth that much money? Now, I think there's probably a little bit of bluster, a little bit of game playing there by Daniel Levy, but the point remains, when you're in a position where you don't need to sell, you can put ridiculous restrictions on your players selling, like the way Daniel Levy is doing right there. When it comes to Mason Mount, the rumoured £60 million is absolutely mind-boggling. Do I want him for £60 million? I can answer that very easily. Not a prayer, mate. Now, I think he's a good player. If you half that, or lower, which I think is the situation Chelsea find themselves, like, is he probably worth 40, 50? Yeah, probably, right. But the situation that Chelsea are in dictates that you can probably go there and take the piss and do a bit of tyre kicking and get it down there a little bit. We probably need a player that has got some of the skill set that he's got. Now, I don't even know if he definitely starts for United week in, week out. And that's where the fact that you're going to potentially spend 60 million on him doesn't really add up. United need someone that probably plays a little bit deeper than Mount plays, or is an actual box-to-box midfielder that could go alongside Casemiro, or someone who's even more of a 6 than Casemiro, but maybe a ball-playing one. Like, there's a number of different options you can have for central midfielders, but I don't think Mason Mount is any of those. And let's look at some of the issues with him as a player. Now, he goes missing, especially this season. He's really struggled to exert his brand of sort of understated influence on a game. And the current campaign just shows that 3 goals, 6 assists for a player that's generally played so high up the pitch. and only 9 goal contributions in 35 games shows you that. And it's not just that. There's a complete lack of the chance. It's not just that people are missing it. He ain't delivering at all. You know, we saw not long ago the game against Southampton. Mount touched the ball 20 times in 63 minutes, completing only half of his 12 attempted passes. That's the definition of going hiding in a game. Now, yeah, he's playing in a totally unsettled Chelsea side and undergoing a bit of a difficult transition season. But still, that's abysmal. And it looks like his heading is in a bad place, to be honest. He only had 4 appearances at the World Cup in some winnable games. He made 0 attacking contribution in those games. He deleted his Twitter. You can only speculate the reasons with that. But it looks like a little bit of what Sancho's gone through this season, a little bit of what Rashford was going through last season. Seems like he's trying to force things on the pitch because he knows things aren't going right, especially when it comes to playing the ball in behind. And you see players doing that when there's a desperation about them. One of the hardest things to do must be to relax when there's 60, 70,000 people in the stadium all waiting for you to do something great or to balls it up, right? That must be extremely difficult to deal with. And if you're not in the right headspace, I think those little cracks can just become chasms. And for me, it looks like Mount isn't dealing with this on a mental side. No, and the result is he's either performing badly or he's just totally coasting through games. If you're going to invest 50, 60 million pounds in a player, do you want to do it on that right now? 60 million pounds is basically what we paid for Casemiro. You want to be spending that on someone who's going to have the impact Casemiro has had, not on someone who you're like, yeah, he's a pretty good player sometimes. Come on, man. Have a bit of common sense here. And for all the people who are like, it's not your money, because there's definitely people going to reply that. Manchester United are going to be under some sort of a financial fair play restriction this summer. We have to spend our money accordingly. If we weren't, and if we went and got took over by some oil baron, I'd be saying, yeah, fucking buy him, buy everybody, fuck it. But the reality is far from that. The reality is Manchester United are going to have to balance the books to a certain degree, and blowing 60 million on Mason Mount, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the price is the big thing, really, because like I said, if he was available for 20 million, I'll go pick him up. Yeah, I'll help him pack his shit. But the talk of 60 million, and there was even a suggestion in one outlet of 80 million, how about relax? He's not worth that. He's not worth that in his current form. You can make a case he was worth that on last season's form, but last season ain't right now. And that's where it gets tricky, because he's about to get into his final year. And if they stay shit next year, then he won't be hanging around and he's going to head off for free. Now, that might be the player that United want to hang around for. And it might be a player other clubs are willing to hang around for as well. Yeah, just see what happens. Take him on a free next year. Would you be happy if United spent, let's say, half of our budget on a Mason Mount that's not even guaranteed to start? You have to improve the starting 11. That's how you win. You make the starting 11 as good as it can be. There's no point looking to the bench until the starting 11 is done. And the next deal that he gets is probably going to be the peak one where he earns the most of his money as a player. It will be a big contract on big salary. And I don't think Mason Mount, in the current makeup of him, is worth it. Simple as that. What if he doesn't improve? What if he goes backwards? You are buying a risk, and I don't think that's the right move. You've seen players that are in tip-top form, look mentally robust, invincible, come to Old Trafford and crumble. Buying someone that looks fragile, that's just had their worst season, for a significant chunk of your probable summer budget just seems like madness. And he's a Chelsea fan. You know, I know players can be professional and I know players can play for rivals, but if you can't get going playing for the club that you support, how can you get going playing for that club's rival? You know, there's been very famous examples of players playing for teams that they don't support. Wayne Rooney was as much of an Everton fan as there's possible to be. But he's successful at Everton and got his move to United to go and win things. Mason Mount has been successful at Chelsea, but the way it's going right now, I don't think you can, who's taking him on the back of this last 12 months? If United sign Kane, it's different. He's obviously had a very successful career at Spurs. He's finishing on a very good season, potentially, and would be going there to try and win things in his career. The Mount one just feels like all sorts of difference. And of course, there's no guarantees that he hits the previous heights that he's hit. We've seen him have some great spells, and notably under Tuchel when he first arrived and they won the Champions League. He scored some real key goals, including Real Madrid, and an assist in the final. And he had a goal involvement every 157 minutes versus Tuchel, which from a midfielder is fantastic. But this stinker of a season, I think you're as likely to come back from this as you are to continue this. We saw Marcus Rashford come back. He didn't need to move to do it. He just kind of had to get over his injuries. But you've also seen people like Dele Alli. They've moved, and then it's just accelerated the fall. And it could literally go either way, I think, at the moment. Sancho is in his second season at United, still hasn't hit the form that he managed at Dortmund. And you might be seeing Mount in a form or a spell similar to what we see currently with Jadon Sancho, or I'd argue it's even worse than Jadon Sancho at the moment. And then it's actually, does he even fit in with where we want to play? As we mentioned, there's a multitude of different ways of playing in central midfield. Mount is obviously a player that plays higher up. Is he coming in to replace Bruno because behave yourself? Is he coming in to play alongside him? What does that formation look like? Are we I don't know if United have got the ability to hold that much ball where both of them could work in a system. There are many, many positives to his game. And I think he's a genuinely good player, or at least he can be. I just don't know what his best position is. And certainly, if I was to bring him to United, I really couldn't identify a position that sees him starting week in, week out. And at £50-60 million investment, United have got far more pressing needs. And I would definitely aim at a more robust central midfielder ahead of Mason Mount. If he was cheaper, think about it. But he doesn't tick many boxes, and certainly is far from ticking all of my boxes. But you guys let me know in the comments, where do you see him? What do you see him as? Would he be a good investment for United? See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.